Ratan
Sharda.
Sharda. And he is the distinguished author, thought leader on Indian political, economics, and cultural landscaping. So he is also a historian, and from my understanding, he's written several books. So we appreciate having him here at Black Heritage Society, and we look forward to you conversating with him here shortly. Well, it's gonna be real. Okay. Very quick. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and just want to our other distinguished guest is now let him say his name, Mr.
Manoj Rathi.
Manoj Rathi. There we go,
Yeah.
Rachi. So we're glad to have him here as well. And he's the one that coordinate our efforts for today. So we're going to go ahead and let you talk with him because I'm sure that's what they want to do as well. And I know you have an emergency. We appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah. So we appreciate Dr. King, and then I was fortunate to listen to you when last month you visited in one of our temples, and really wanted to meet you again. Now that we have this guest from India, he has written a lot of books, and I will let him speak about it, what he has done, and an organization which is celebrating 100 years. It's called RSS. So he's going to talk about it. And also any question and any comment you have it, then you can have interact. So I'll give it to Dr. Sharda.
Good morning, Dr. Derek. It is a privilege to see you in person. It would have been much great for me if I had been able to shake hands with you, linking myself to great Martin Luther King. Unfortunately, maybe another time. And this particular meeting, this visit of mine, I am trying to outreach people who are actually very close to Hindu community of India, but either they do not know or we don't have enough close interactions, and that's the reason I'm here. I'm privileged to be here in Black Heritage Society because great Martin Luther King was a disciple of Mahatma Gandhi without ever having met him, and his relentless struggle for justice to the black community can never be forgotten, and his patience and his strong willpower, where he was dealing with a society which was actually very different from what blacks were and how they tried to wipe out their entire identity. We understand that because we have suffered similar persecution for hundreds of years. My first exposure to the black community in true sense was way back in 2003, because we did read Martin Luther King during our college times, but to get the feeling what black community has gone through, the 2003 exposure in an organization called International Center for Cultural Studies in India, where we had people from 34 countries, pre-Islamic, pre-Christian civilizations, and how they were enslaved, brought to Americas and other places. And we had Mother Taylor, a spiritual leader of Yoruba spiritual tribe from Maryland. She was there. Then there were some other poetess. So I kind of felt the poetry that she recited, which she had written. She's standing by the side of the seashore and crying aloud, "Who am I?" Because the black people who were shipped to US were forced to lose their identity, forced to lose their origin, were not allowed to celebrate their birthdays. They could not keep the names that their community or their tradition would have kept. So that pain of that lady actually is what I can never forget. That how do you find who am I? From there to have reached this stage in US, where today blacks can demand justice, they can have a president, and they can have some sense of equality which is not yet truly achieved, is I think all result of great leaders like Martin Luther King, and also the common African who has seen to it that he is respected, she is given some space in the society, but still it's a long struggle. We in India, I work for an organization and written for the organization called National Volunteer Corps in Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh in Sanskrit, but in English you can say National Volunteer Corps, which was founded in 1942, and where the founder of this particular organization, Dr. Hedgewar, realized that Hindus, despite being such a wonderful civilization, where they had a great, very prosperous society, very wonderful progress, scientific progress, and also where they traded with the world and had nearly 50% of the trade, GDP, and even at the later years 23% GDP. However, they reduced to slavery, and he realized the difference between Hindus over caste, creed, and various other minor fault lines resulted in a disunited society. So we need to unite the society to rise above the factionalism, to rise above the divisive nature, and only then the nation can be built. So this memory of colonization of 800 years had to be remembered, and we had to go back to our roots to see how great we were and how we can achieve greatness again. That is the basis of this organization. And the commonality between us and the ancient civilization like the blacks from Africa and other places is that we all believed in coexistence. We all believed in respect of every other religion and every other thought, and we loved our nature, we loved our earth and our forest, and we worshipped them, and also we were tolerant, and not just tolerant, respectful to other religions, to other societies. And that was misused, that was exploited to enslave, whether they were blacks or whether they were Hindus from India, where they faced a genocide like you did. We saw genocide where in one particular period of invaders we lost 80 million people in population. And I believe that the people who lost lives while being transported from Africa, the way they were treated here, would also run in millions if I'm not wrong. And that's the commonality and the urge to find our roots, urge to come above what we were and where we are now. That urge is common to both the communities, and that is why we reach out to all the communities who have similar thoughts about mutual existence, mutual respect. And for that reason, I am here to meet people. And as I said, there are many commonalities, there are a lot of struggles, and there are also a lot of mistakes. I mean, a lot of misunderstandings, especially about Indians, where local communities feel that Indians are not really actually, they don't have faith, they don't have that respect for blacks. That's the impression that we get, and that's not right, because we understand. As we said, we were also oppressed for a long time, you have been oppressed for a long time. Struggles are common, and solutions I think common, that asserting our identity, asserting our good qualities, and struggling to find the right place under the sun. So these are the common threads that we have. We have a leader called Prime Minister Modi, who comes from the same organization, RSS, and if you see, he has done wonderful work with the African countries. He has brought African countries, despite not being developed, into highest platforms of the world. He has gone out of way, believing in our motto that all world is a family. He has gone ahead and distributed vaccines across the world in nearly 160 countries, including all the African countries, all the poor countries. And the African India sphere of influence, the world of the South, has really gained prominence because of Prime Minister Modi's efforts. So treating the entire world as a family is the hallmark of Hindu thought. That is from where Modi comes, and that is the reason you see a new kind of approach and respect for the African countries which Modi has brought to the global stage. And on this thought, on these platforms, I think we should work together in various spheres, and also try to understand and have more meetings so we can understand each other. And that's the idea. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patient listening.
Well, pleasure to meet you via this technology. Let me make sure I'm unmuted. Let me quickly say, I've said to Teresa, and the subject of race. We have got to come together as human beings and people of faith and embrace our oneness. As it relates to Dr. King, uh, we will never have another Dr. King, and nor will we ever have another Mahatma Gandhi. They taught us on how to become fearless in the face of opposition that thwarts a human, what I call human peaceful coexistence. Um, you are in the presence of a, well, I just have to say it like I say it like I see it, call it as I see it. Teresa Brewer leads one of the uh, significant uh, black nonprofits in the city of Houston. Uh, the founder and president of that organization had a local consciousness, and hopefully you will get to know her and know her passion, along with Sister Helen Johnson, who's been uh, affiliated with the organization, I'm gonna venture to say from its inception. Uh, so uh, uh, the theme that caught my attention back in January, um, uh, Dr. Ratan, keep building beautiful bridges. So with that, if opportunity allows us to meet person to person, uh, become advocates in solidarity for the peaceful coexistence of human beings, not only just Hindus and blacks, but all people. Um, and I'm of the opinion we are better when we are together. So, so my brother, in pardon, I neglected to offer this greeting when we first connected. Namaste, my brother.
Namaste.
Teresa, I got to go. I got to go.
Yes.
Much love to you. Get back to me and give me an update and further instructions on what I can do to contribute.
Sounds great, and appreciate your
Thank you so
time.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
namaste,
for your
Dr.
time,
King.
and all the best to you for whatever problem you have should resolve soon, and we hope to see you soon. Dhanyavad.
Okay.
Namaste.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks.
King.
Thanks, Dr. King.
Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
take care.
Thank you, Reverend Derek King. Appreciate your time. We'll get back together. We just want to continue the conversation. We have, like I said, our historian, Ms. Helen Johnson, and just what Dr. Derek King just talked about. Could you elaborate and add something with your knowledge and base so that we can share? Because of course we're looking for this oneness in the human race. So.
Well, I was just
So,
listening.
yeah, so basically our outreach to every community, not just, every community. We have been meeting with Jews and local Americans, etc. So idea is to reach out as human beings, brothers in a world where world is a family. That's the basic idea from where we come.
I appreciated your presentation also, but what I looked at was just the way that the black communities, black Americans have been depicted worldwide is what's causing the problem, because there was a strategy to demonize, minimize, and really to eradicate the black people. And it's interesting because even in our religious institutions, like there was a concerted effort to whitewash even the saints and our religious figures and all of that. So it all started with the lie. The lie was that black people did not contribute anything to the civilization. And Gandhi picked up on that. Well, how was he to know that this was not the truth? And they went about it systematically, and they had a system. They had a plan. They had a strategy.
Right.
And they all came together. The Europeans came together without an African there represented, and they divided up the continent of Africa among European countries.
They drew straight lines and this belongs to this.
Yeah.
Who
It's
are
like,
they?
yeah.
Who are they to
The
decide?
Africans there didn't know anything about it, and then they said, "Well, let's use Christianity to go in and actually conquer them, because this way we can control their minds." So, so they excuse me. So they sent supposedly Christians. Now, to me, they weren't Christians. They were hypocrites. They couldn't be Christians because what they did was not godly. They sent them in to actually brainwash the people, to convince them that God loved them and that they were his representatives. And then they went further to whitewash the religious figures so that God then was the complexion that they were. And the Africans, somebody coming in with love and God and all of that, and then they had these little gifts. They had little rhinestones, cut beads, and the shiny things and all of that, and they actually believed them. So we're looking at deceivers, we're looking at liars from the very beginning. And God is not a liar, and certainly not a deceiver. And God is on the side of truth. And I remember reading about Gandhi when he was saying, God is truth. But when he finished his thesis or whatever it was, he said, truth is God. So here we are with people that are anti whatever Christianity represented or taught, and doing just the opposite. And their intent was to brainwash and enslave a continent of people. They even made it so that Africa, which is a continent, they made it like it was a country. And that anybody that came from Africa were inferior if they were dark complexion, see. You had to be, this is at the black African. This is whosoever was the opposite of them. So the darker you are, the less intelligent you became. And it set up the white people as God's chosen people, when that's not really what happened. That's not the way it went. The first people were actually the African people. These were the first people.
Yeah.
And but all of that is wiped out. They told everybody else, and see, in India, anywhere, any other group, they're telling them that Africans are savages, Africans are unintelligent, and worst of all, that black Africans were born inferior. intellectual. And that's the big lie.
Big.
The big lie.
Yeah.
So then how would you know? You're from another country. And here are these people who have control of all of the publishing companies. They have control all your magazines, everything, the media, radio, everything. And they're saying the same thing. So how would someone from India know that that was a lie? It was a perpetuation of the lie that separated the ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
It was the perpetuation of a lie that caused all of this. And when people went over and robbed Africans from Africa, snatched them from their homeland in chains, and brought them over to America, nobody said it much.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are savages, unintelligent, born inferior. So, what were you supposed to say? And then to make it even worse in America, make it worse, they declared the African people as subhuman. So here we are.
They were made into exhibits.
Not even human beings. Not even human beings. Livestock. They branded them like cattle. They killed them, they maimed, they did everything, but that's an animal. So nobody said anything. The lie branded us from generation to generation of lie.
But now the time has come to change that lie, and
So
then
that is the reason I talked about erasure of your identity by not allowing you your own names, your own birthdays, your own living together. It was treatment which even animal won't give an animal. And actually they use the church to exploit, to expand the nature, like very famous saying that when they came we had the land, when they gave us the Bible they had the land, we had only Bible. And the way I talked to Mother Taylor, whom I heard in 2003 from Maryland, and also the poetess, when I said who am I, this is the basic cry of our entire race whose identity had been erased or sought to be erased, whether it's blacks or Indians or natives. So the very fact that those idiots didn't even know that this is not India, this is native land, and but they use the Bible to exploit people. In fact, this is the worst use of religion that anybody can think of. And we didn't do it, you didn't do it. Africa was a happy place, like Gandhi said in the case of India, that I think some other historian, that India would be a happier place if they had not found it, if we remained uncivilized, so called. Similarly, Africa would have been a happy place if they had not come and tried to discover you. So this is the problem that imperialists use. They use the religion. Now religion by itself is not bad. Jesus was not white. They turned him to a white man, if you remember. He comes from Mediterranean and he is not white. So this kind of superimposition of their ideas of the world was the worst kind of exploitation. Now that is gone. I think the struggle for blacks is still on, because the way they are depicted even now, and the way some of the blacks have gone out of way to seek justice, which is not the way actually great leaders like Luther King saw, but then that's the way the young generation reacts. And I think it makes your job much more difficult when younger generation simply refuses to listen, because they have imbibed that sense of injustice, which is correct. But redressal, maybe everybody needs to sit around and try to have a sense of justice, which is also born out of repentance and born out of sense that okay, we need to have a positive discrimination and rewrite the history where we can show and understand what was done. At least there are history records coming out, and for all it matters, Africa was living happily. They had their own medicines, they had their own science, they were living happily with nature. Does it mean that unless you have multi-story buildings and they are not expensive cars, you are not happy? That's not truth. So to make a happy race unhappy, using God to exploit the people was worse. And the way the enslavement happened, the way they were transported to America, that was subhuman. And I think the pain is always there. I think pain with you people, actually people like you, right, who study, where you may not be able to sleep when you read those things and when you discuss discovered those things. That has to come out so that sense of catharsis, and then the politicians will sit and give a proper law which will actually remove discrimination, which will actually give justice, rather than these demonstrative political actions which don't really address the real issues that the community has gone through. I don't know how you are going to handle the angry young generation, because that is where a real challenge lies, I think, and that is where some positivity you are trying to inject, and that is tribute to the sober leadership of blacks, and that needs to arise so that people can be at peace with themselves. That's the pain that today, like when Hindus today are angry because they were also denied all history. They were told they were brutal, they were native, they had no knowledge. Where we had the best scientific knowledge. We had mathematics ahead of whites, which was taken from India to Europe. We had best possible mathematicians, metallurgy, and various industries, including shipbuilding. And we were denied all this and told we were native, like blacks, we were just natives and we had no sense of science or anything. And we were made a fool and said, we have taught you. Our schools were shut down to put their ideas to enslave us further. This colonization of mind is the real problem that we also face, you also face, and luckily both are discovering our identities, and the sense of anger or injustice is there, I think, but that has to come out once. It is kind of like a boil, so boil has to, will burst, there will be some poison, there will be some unhappiness, but that is what will give calm to the people when you are able to address it positively. It's very tough, I understand, because we had different kind of enslavement. We were in our own country. Though our memories were sought to be erased, we somehow survived that. You could not, because you were simply transported on the land. Totally different land, and then other side your own people were exploited like anything. Today Africa is poor not because they are poor, they are poor because they have taken away all the resources. We just draw lines and divide tribes. You draw lines and divide communities as if you own the land. That's the real thing. The entire Africa today is still struggling with itself. So on one side your people, on the other side from you came are still struggling, and you here are trying to get back their identity. So I think it's a very important journey that you are going through, and very painful journey. And I hope you can get over it soon.
Well, I'm encouraged that you're coming forward. We are accustomed to other groups believing the lie. We're accustomed to it, but we embrace everybody because we know that we are all God's children. And we try to, whenever we have the opportunity, we try to extend kindness and love to others. But it's often misunderstood or it's rejected because a lot of them don't feel that we are in a position to embrace others, that we are at the very bottom, and they might not even want us to contact them because the white people might see them with us, and heaven forbid.
But see, whites are the biggest, if you go back to history, they are the biggest criminals. The way they stigmatize an entire community, the way they killed them just to exploit them, they're the biggest criminals. Now to treat blacks as criminals is something that itself is criminal. And I think they have to reconcile much more than the blacks. And the blacks have only to be big-hearted. They can be big-hearted, but they cannot, the others have to address the wounds. Whether the young generation can come out of this anger is something that is the biggest question, I believe, today in the society. And for that, whites are also responsible. And you have much more responsibility because only you can, calm them, and you can only, subdue their anger. Whites can only come and, try to undo the injustice in some way or other. See, one injustice is economical, other injustice is emotional, and third is historical. Like you have natives also who have been equally exploited, killed, murdered. Now, the old communities like you and us, or natives, cannot just be in exhibits. To say, okay, she has arisen, see how good she is, she has arisen out of poverty and come on the top. But how do we get over the sense of injustice? I think that is where the question lies in political system in US today. And I think somebody like Obama could have done, some more leaders like that, there could be whites, there could be blacks or Indians who could actually address this with empathy. What it requires empathy, not just some loss. That's why we do. More exchange of ideas, more meetings where people will realize that who we are to each other.
You know, we now have radicalized racism.
Yeah.
They abound.
Yeah.
They don't care if you know that they're racist now. They're coming out because truth from the books, truth from people speaking out, truth from the very channels that they intended to use to keep blacks down. And truth has come into your communities because you have television, you have all of these electronic devices, and it doesn't take long for the word to reach you. So we can see, other groups can see. You can see the racism, you can see the lie, you can see how they have manipulated and brainwashed, and how they propagated information that would be against certain groups. The darker you are, the worse. But if you notice,